I'm trying to figure out a word. What's the word I can't think of right now?
Okay, you got your lightning rod up? We are going to be talking about a very controversial topic today, and that is AI. In some of the Facebook groups that we're in, as soon as you mention AI, the comments come out of the woodwork and just don't use it. Don't ever use AI to help in any way with your writing. So that's going to be our topic today. The challenge that I have is AI means so many things to so many different people that just to say don't use AI to help with your writing. An example I posted in one group was, if I ask Alexa to turn on the lights in my study so that I can write, I have just used AI to help with my writing. I'm sure that's not what people mean. But if the line isn't there, where is the line? What does it mean to use AI? What even is AI? So what I have here is something that, after I was thinking through what my philosophy around AI usage would be, I came across an article called AI Best Practices for Authors. It's published by the Authors Guild, and we'll have a link in the description here, that I think creates a very balanced approach to what it means to use AI. But before we go into that balanced approach, I'm going to spring this on you. When you think about AI, how would you define AI in terms of a conversation like this?
So,
surprise.
Obviously AI, artificial intelligence.
Right.
One of the things that I was thinking of when you were saying no AI whatsoever, that crowd, I think of the program Grammarly, which is a writing aid that just helps catch grammar mistakes. And I think by certain definitions, that would be AI. It's using a computer to provide feedback. You put something in and it gives something back that helps you accomplish something. And it's something based on what you put in and formulated for the specific context. I don't think I really have a specific definition of what AI would be.
What I've seen in some of those comments is, don't use any external tools, just use the ones that are built into your word processor. And even that definition isn't all that helpful, because even a 1990s spelling and grammar checker could, by some definitions, be considered artificial intelligence. It's still an understanding of English grammar that's not a human being. And more, even Microsoft Word is embedding more of the generative, hey, let me write something for you, into the tool itself. So that's not even a helpful tool.
And I'm not sure if I've seen this in Word. I know I've seen it other places where you can write something and it will tell you what the tone of the text is, and you can have it rewrite it for you in a different tone.
Right. So I like the way that, what was it here? The Amazon has a description. If you're going to publish using Kindle Direct Publishing, they talk about the need to disclose anything that isn't considered original if it's generated by the text. And I am looking for, did I have it
I think
wrong?
it's a different sheet, because there was one for... Yeah, here you go.
Here we go. Thank you. What would I do without you? See, this is why father and son, we work together. I need help. They define AI-generated content as text, images, or translations created by an AI-based tool. And they distinguish that Amazon does not require disclosure when the AI is used as a tool to, quote, edit, refine, error check, or otherwise improve content that you created. So spell check, grammar check, even those that will identify your tone and give you feedback. I've seen automatically critique your story, looking for plot holes or character definition. There are a lot of different feedback-based tools that Amazon would not require disclosure for. So that would be an example of the difference that I would say when we talk about AI. I'm thinking specifically of generative AI. I describe something and it produces something. That's the output of AI that I would be thinking of, and really where this conversation goes. So what I'd like to do is just share the 6 points that are the Authors Guild's suggestions for using generative AI ethically, and then we can talk about where we fit on that, what we think about it. First, use AI as an assistant for brainstorming, editing, and refining ideas rather than a primary source of work, with the goal of maintaining the unique spirit that defines human creativity. Use AI to support, not replace, this process. What are your thoughts there?
I know that's something that we have already done a lot of, as far as at least using AI to brainstorm. Sometimes it's merely, I'm trying to figure out a word that fits in this spot in the sentence and that means this and conveys these ideas. What's the word I can't think of right now? And it comes back with the word, here, you might mean this word, or maybe this one, or this one, or this one. And it's like, yes, that one right there. That's the word I was trying to think of but couldn't think of. And then I know for you've used it a lot when brainstorming some of the deeper science parts of the story.
And we'll get into that later, because of generative AI is not necessarily a science expert, so it can very confidently say, this is the way the science works, and it's not. Another way that I've used it as a brainstorm is, what might the daily routine for somebody who does this, what might that look like? Not because I'm going to be describing the daily routine of a character, but by the time they get to a certain point in the scene, I want to have an idea as the author, what their mindset will have been. What will they have experienced throughout the rest of the day, so that I can, just to help me get into the mind of that character, so that I can be ready to write what's about to be happening. So that kind of brainstorming I've used it with. Number 2, to the extent you use AI to generate text, be sure to rewrite it in your own voice before adopting it. If you are claiming authorship, then you should be the author of your work. What do you think about that one?
I think that's very fair. Don't just put your scene outline in there, ask ChatGPT to write it for you, and then take that, copy and paste it into your book.
Personally, I look at that, and that's even more permissive than I would want to be.
Right, yes.
I would not even want to risk being exposed to AI's idea of what my scene could be. Very often when I'm looking for brainstorm or just asking about scientific stuff, AI tries to be helpful, and it will say, would you like me to offer you a suggestion of what this scene may look like? I'm like, no, I want to come up with that myself. I'm just looking for background. That I'm surprised to see something that permissive in their guidelines.
Yeah, generate text, I think, is very broad, and I think there is a finer line. I would say, no, don't have it generate the entire chapter for you and then just adjust it. But maybe if there's like, I want a very specific quote, right? Like one sentence right here. I think that's something that would be, I don't know right now that I would necessarily be okay with that, but just getting, it would definitely be more permissible than writing and having it write an entire scene for you.
To me, the largest block of text that I would be comfortable adopting is a single word. And often it's because I know there's a word for this and it means this, and I'm looking for this particular, all of this nuance behind the word, and it will generate a list of 20 possibilities. And I'm okay using one word out of that, but to generate an entire sentence, I'm not personally comfortable with that myself. If an appreciable amount of AI-generated text, characters, or plot are incorporated in your manuscript, you must disclose it to your publisher and should also disclose it to the reader. Say more about that's not necessary if it's just brainstorming, idea generation, or copy editing. And for me, if I pass the point where, sorry, I'm just kind of co-opting this. If I pass the point where I felt it would need for disclosure, I've already gone too far. I don't want to produce anything that would even need that kind of a disclosure.
Yeah. I think part of it is it feels weird publishing something as yourself and saying, I wrote this, but it wasn't actually really me. It was
Right.
I was more of the writing coach to ChatGPT than I was the writer myself.
Yeah. For the same reason, I don't feel comfortable using a ghostwriter.
Right.
Even though ghostwriters have an arrangement where they do that for a living, and that's, it's okay with them. If I say I wrote it, I want to have written it. Respect the rights of other writers when using generative AI technologies, including copyrights, trademarks, and other rights, and do not use generative AI to copy or mimic the unique styles, voices, or other distinctive attributes of other writers' works in ways that harm the works. That was a very long way. Don't use AI to try to sound like somebody else.
And I think if you put the line at, I won't use AI for anything more than a single word, you completely mitigate that risk, because a single word is not an author's voice. It's how those words are put together.
And I also think, even in the brainstorming, I don't think that I would want to ask it, how would so-and-so say this?
Right.
Because I think the tendency would be, even if I don't sit there and copy it word for word, it's going to get stuck in my memory, and I'm going to remember it, and I'm going to feel as if it were original.
Yes.
Originality is the ability to forget your sources when it comes to art. And I'm pretty sure that I came up with that myself.
Yeah. No, I came up with that.
You came up with that one?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, yeah, I read that somewhere, but I can't remember where. Number 5, thoroughly review and fact check all content generated by AI systems. I'm not going to read the rest of that, but we talked about that. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, AI is famous for getting many things wrong, even for things that I've asked it for outside of work on our writing. You'll ask it for, it's especially bad at counting. You ask it for words with so many letters in it, or a word with so many syllables in it, and it just doesn't understand that. Or I want a word that starts with an S and ends with a W and is so many letters, and half of the words don't start with an S and end with a W, and it kind of thinks they do sometimes.
Now, some of the newer models are getting a lot better at being more accurate, but one of the other things that's mentioned here that I didn't read was the tendency for generative AI to reflect the stereotype and bias that was present in all of its training data. That's where we talked earlier about the Writing with Color website, just to help us to get over our own stereotypes and biases and to overcome some of that. So, yeah, even when I ask, hey, what might a typical day have been like? What might a person be thinking? What might be a reason somebody would do something like this? Even if it comes up with a reason that seems plausible, I can use that to spark some ideas and then go do some research on them. So I can use it to spark the research, but not as the final end of the research. And then number 6, show solidarity with and support professional creators in other fields, including voice actors and narrators, translators, illustrators, etc., as they also need to protect their professions from generative AI uses. Thoughts there?
I mean, you don't want to use AI to replace a person's job, especially in the creative field. And I think some of that is also, it's not just out of respect for them, but also the art is a very human field. And whether it always seems that way or not, when you have a computer do it for you, you're kind of removing you're removing that human touch. And sometimes you can notice that there's a whole lot more depth, I think, that can be reached with the human touch in art, whether that's visual art or writing. There's a whole lot more depth that can be reached by having people do it than by having an AI do it.
And even there, we're talking about the voice actors, narrators, translators, illustrators, illustration and voice acting, the narrating. Those are two areas where we expect that beyond writing, those are two areas that we're going to end up including in the works that we do. And we're already committed. We're not going to use any generated images in any of our artwork. We do have generated images of our characters that we're using just to help us have a common view of this is who this person is, just to keep that character in our own minds. But those images will not be part of anything that we produce. When we get ready to have artwork for our book covers, a human being will have created that artwork. And then when it comes to voice acting, narrating, this is something I have felt compelled. When we put this book in audio form, I really want to do that ourselves. I have in my mind, this is what I want the characters to sound like. I can create different voices, although I may not do them as consistently as I would like. One area I have considered using AI is for me to record a character's voice and record enough audio to create a model for that character of my own voice. And then as I go through and read that character's dialogue, use the AI to make it consistent, but I haven't found any AI that actually works that way. And to do so, even if it did work that way, I would need to record so much audio that I might as well just train myself to be consistent than to try to train an AI. So the most I would imagine using AI for is to help clean up all of the noise, remove any echo, to have a consistent ambient sound to all of the recording. And that's the most I could imagine using AI for in the narrator. So that was probably one of our most lengthy episodes. Our question for you is, as we look at positive, negative uses of AI, where is an area that you could see either us or somebody else, some other commentary that you've seen that goes out of balance, either too permissive or too restrictive when it comes to AI? And what would you propose as a more balanced alternative? Let us know that in the comments, and we'll see you again next week.